Once more, my family neglected my birthday. I received an invitation a week later. The cabin served as the venue for my brother's baby shower. I assist them without expressing regret. I only ask that they provide $200 via Venmo for catering. With a note, I sent one. What I have left for you is this. 2 days later, when my sister attempted to access the joint account, I banned all the numbers. Like me, it was gone. Once more, they overlooked my birthday. No phone calls, texts, or Slack Facebook posts from mom with a recycled childhood photo and a series of heart emoticons. Not even one of those presents given in groups. Even on National Donut Day, my sister enjoys spamming about anything. Nothing at all from them. I'm not 12. My 3 children sent me homemade cards, but I don't need a cake or balloons. My youngest even inquired as to whether Grandpa will be visiting. I pretended that he was preoccupied with his job. He wasn't. He simply couldn't recall. A week later, my sister sends me a group text when I'm enjoying some coffee on my porch. She uses a lot of exclamation points and sunlight. Hey family, next weekend is Jake and Lisa's baby shower. The cabin is where we're doing it. I'm very happy. By Friday, please Venmo $200 to me for catering. Tea checks, a red heart. The cabin, my cabin, or half of mine anyhow. Or even a fourth now. It was meant to be a family affair after all the financial juggling we had to do when my brother was unable to obtain a loan approval on his loan. To help close the deal, though, I paid the contractor, paid the down payment, purchased the furnishings, used my own equipment to construct the deck, and even refinanced my automobile. 6 months ago, they had a housewarming celebration, but they neglected to invite me, said it was at the last moment. My brother's baby shower was now taking place there. I once requested a man to pay me back for the fence he asked me to cover, and he called me uptight. I hadn't been consulted about the proposal. No invitation. A simple appeal for cash. Now I was just that. An ATM without the need for small conversation. I spent a lot of time reading that text. Not merely irritated, not even furious. Actually, just finished. That night, I had nothing left for them to steal. I give my sister precisely 0 wires with a letter after opening Venmo. What I have left for you is this. I then blocked all of the numbers. Mom, Dad, sister, my brother, family group conversation. Completed. When I informed my wife, she raised an eyebrow. She didn't want to press me, but I believe she had been waiting for this moment for years. Good, she said. It was silent for 2 days, as if someone had turned down the volume on my life. The first ripple then struck. From an unidentified number, my sister texted me, obviously in a panic. It has to do with our previous emergency fund. She was unable to log in, claimed it was gone. She was unaware that I had visited the bank and closed it earlier that week. The initial purpose of that account was to assist any one of us in times of need. I was the only one who ever made a contribution, and the sole user of it ever. Me too. The remaining amount, somewhat less than $19,000, was now in a secret account that was only in my name. I hadn't spent a dime. Not quite yet. All I wanted was for it to be out of grasp. The emails then arrived. My mother sent a lengthy message expressing her confusion and hurt. She couldn't comprehend my icy demeanor. She reminded me that Jake and Lisa were simply very busy, that we were family, and that at a certain age, birthdays didn't really matter. I didn't respond. I read aloud the sentence several times. After that, I glanced at my daughter's crayon-drawn card on my desk. She inquired as to why Grandpa wasn't present to join them in singing. My children recalled. My children were concerned. My birthday was remembered by my family. It simply didn't seem important to them. Not until they required my assistance. Then all of a sudden, I was really easy to recall. However, I had had enough of serving those who viewed me as nothing more than a tool. I had changed in some way. Something long-lasting. I wasn't even angry. I was just explicit. And when the silent one eventually made the decision to speak up, they were going to see what happened. The baby shower bombshell is part 2. On Saturday, the baby shower was scheduled. I knew every detail, yet I wasn't invited. My sister shared a countdown tag on social media because she overshares. Even the homemade decorations were displayed by the caterer. She worked so hard all night long. No, it's not like remembering a sibling's birthday. At the cabin, they were referring to it as Baby Bash. Jake and Lisa must have believed they were now influencers. Jake captioned a photo he took on the deck I constructed. These blue heart dot was created for occasions like these. I wasn't tagged by him. Naturally, he didn't. They were unaware that I still held the key and that I was a partial owner of the property. I refused to interrupt the celebration. It would have been far too clear, too trivial. There was no need for a scene. I needed to be reminded. A little surgical interruption. Something they would experience but be unable to voice in public without appearing foolish. I thus called the property manager, who was in charge of cabin rentals in the region, on Friday afternoon. I alerted him about it. Due to unresolved ownership problems, the cottage was closed for the weekend. No events, no rents, and liability concerns. He was familiar with me. When we weren't using it, I had hired him to oversee short-term stays. Despite his confusion, he promised to lock it down. After that, I gave the county a call and requested a temporary injunction to prevent events from using the cabin. There's just enough red tape to make it ugly. For maintenance, I also had the water turned off. The identical call was received by the gas company. Blocked line. I watched my kid construct a Lego spaceship while doing all of this from the comfort of my couch. 10:40 a.m. on a Saturday. It buzzed on my phone. Another new number. My sister sent the SMS. Why does the driveway gate have a lock? People are coming in. Have you done this? No response. Then another. You're not serious. Catering is on its way. Visitors are traveling 3 hours by car. Lisa is in tears. No response as of yet. My mother sent me a message 1 hour later. She jumped right to terror, avoiding the guilt. You have to fix this right away, Kurt. Jake is having a unique day. Act like the larger guy. Be the larger person, please. I've been there for years, so the statement struck a different chord. The person who spent hours behind the wheel to assist Dad in moving a sofa. The person who covered the deductible when Jake damaged Mom's vehicle. When it wasn't convenient to remember me, I was the one who accepted everything and was forgotten. Later, I saw the stories unfold. My parents' property was used as a last-minute location for the occasion. Just a foldable table laden with Costco food and a collection of mismatched chairs, no expensive charcuterie table or views of the mountains. Jake didn't appear content. Lisa was not smiling. My sister once shared a tale with a caption that wasn't what we had in mind, but we managed to make it work. Biceps flexed, heart-shaped sparkle. I was not tagged. Dad called me on Monday. He left a voicemail, but I didn't answer. He sounded worn out. Stated that we needed to speak. I choose to disregard it. My mom then unexpectedly came up at my residence on Wednesday. On a Wednesday morning, my mother unexpectedly arrived with a jar of banana bread, as if that would resolve the issue. She hadn't actually cooked it herself. It smelled like the grocery shop. She wasn't invited in. I simply went outside and shut the door after myself. She began by talking about the weather, the flowers my yard. I gave her space to speak. After a while, she slipped into a soft position, as if she was hesitant to reveal why she was on my doorstep. It wasn't our intention to overlook your birthday. She stated as much. No, I apologize. They simply didn't intend to. I informed her that I was no longer upset about the birthday. Because it's only a symptom to forget a birthday. The actual illness is completely being neglected, unless they are in need of something. She attempted to place the blame on her hectic schedule. Claimed that no one was attempting to harm me since Jake and Lisa had been so overwhelmed. I asked her how long it had been since someone in our family had phoned to see how I was doing without asking for assistance. Not for cash, to inquire about her well-being. She was unable to respond. Instead, she glanced at her shoes. She then inquired as to whether, as Jake claimed, I had indeed turned off the gas and water at the cabin. I did, I said. She said that Jake was upset that Lisa had wept that they had friends arrive with presents and no seats, and that they were all humiliated by having to pack into her garden. That was the purpose, I informed her. As if I had hit her, she blinked. I questioned her about it. People only realize I'm here when I eventually push back. As Jake continued coasting and receiving praise for doing the bare minimum, I inquired as to how many more years I was expected to play the responsible one. Once more, she attempted to protect him, said that he is simply wired differently, that his financial skills are lacking. He has had a more difficult existence. I asked her if it was simpler to raise 3 children on one salary and contribute to their family's vacation expenses. When Dad's insurance didn't cover his dental surgery last year, what made it easier, I stated that the one distinction was that I never anticipated being carried by another person. Then she tried another approach. According to my children, they shouldn't grow up without their parents. They already were, I informed her. That birthday had passed and none of them had called or sent a card. That silenced my youngest for a time when she inquired if Uncle Jake didn't make us. She questioned my sincerity about severing our relationship. No, I said, I wasn't severing relations. Just now I was establishing terms. They wouldn't accept me on their previous conditions if they wanted me in the family. Kurt, no more silence. No more working for free. No more saying yes to everything without thinking. I informed her that although I was open to talking, I would no longer be a safety net for anybody. She said little and walked away. She brought the banana bread along. My dad arrived 2 days later. I had low expectations. The man lived his entire life acting as though he was unaware of anything that bothered him. However, he listened for more than an hour while seated at my kitchen table. Did not defend. Didn't give a lecture. He posed genuine inquiries. Then he said something that surprised me. You were correct. We have treated you unfairly. Since it was simpler to ignore Jake's outbursts than to deal with his tantrums, we've allowed him to get away with everything. And since we knew you wouldn't resist, we relied on you. He didn't even seek for my pardon. He simply apologized. Later that evening, my sister contacted to ask if we could speak. The following day, we met. She sobbed. Not in a big way. She remarked quietly that she became aware of how much she took for granted after seeing my withdrawal. She admitted to me that she was embarrassed since she couldn't even recall the last time she had inquired about my life. They were all beginning to understand. Each and every one. Jake, that is. One group message was sent by him. This is pitiful. Kurt is behaving as though he has experienced abuse. Adult up. Here you are not the victim. That was it. Pretending to be strong, one long wail. Then an odd thing occurred. Mom. The thread was commented to by the woman who used to advise me to forget it every time Jake let me down. Jake, enough. Simply stop. My dad came next. It's not your brother who has to mature. What about my sister? This embarrasses me. You should apologize to Kurt. Jake didn't answer. I just got out of the group chat. They all wish to start again now. They're making an effort. That is what I'll offer them. However, I've evolved. Something in me broke and put itself back together in a different way. I can't return to my former self. Not that I want to. We occasionally cross paths. Sunday meals and brief visits. They pose genuine queries. They don't request payment. However, I don't feel any closer. I simply feel more liberated. For once, I am aware that they do not view me as the go-to person for assistance, money, or support. They perceive me as having finally said no. Jake was back on the scene in no time, a month or so following the unsuccessful baby shower. We were all invited over for supper by my folks. It's just a basic thing. They said, no lengthy remarks, no awkward truth circle. All they wanted to do was attempt to be a family once more. My spouse wasn't convinced. I agreed, but I was wary. That night, as soon as we got into the driveway, Jake's vehicle was parked in front of us. It was still damaged in the rear from when he struck a light post and blamed the curb. He was not with Lisa. She must have picked things up more quickly than the others. Dinner was quiet at first. My mother prepared a pot roast. For the first time, my dad actually assisted with setting the table. There were efforts, a typical dialogue. My sister mentioned getting promoted. My mother mentioned a Netflix series. She believed that we had no interest in the past, not a word about the cabin. Then Jake said something. "Have you all stopped acting like this guy is a hero?" he remarked, gesturing with his fork in my direction. The room froze. Come on, I mean, we're all expected to act like Gandhi after he cuts everyone off during a tantrum brought on by my baby shower. Nobody answered. He was grinning as if he had successfully diffused the situation. I glanced at my father. He remained silent, simply continued munching. Jake continued. That was his tone, half bitterness, half sarcasm, as if he believed he was the only person who realized the truth. He always believed he was superior to us. Just because he didn't damage his credit and had a job with perks, Jake claimed. What do you know? He's dull because of it. Not much better. Just a man whose heart is a calculator. My mother got to her feet at that point. I assumed she would exit the room. She didn't. Sit down and shut up, she ordered, staring Jake in the eye. Jake chuckled. I assumed she was joking. Then he understood that she wasn't. She surveyed the table. We allowed him to follow her instructions. We allowed him to take care of our family, and we made him feel as though he should have thanked him. My dad interrupted Jake as he tried to speak. It was never intended for us to depend on you. To me, he said. However, we did. And we held you responsible for the consequences once you eventually refused. We're responsible for it. For a long time, there was silence. Unaware that this supper was becoming a therapy session, my kids were in the living room watching a movie. At last, Jake resumed his speech. Now lower. In any case, he still acts theatrical. Nobody responded. He glanced around, hoping someone would support him. Nobody did. After a while, he stood up and carried his plate to the sink, claimed to have tasks to complete, departed without said farewell. The remainder of the evening was uneventful. Something genuine began to take shape, however imperfectly. About my wife's job, my sister inquired. Mom said she missed my children. Next weekend, my dad asked if I could help him fix the garage door. He seemed to want to spend time with me, but not in the traditional sense. We drove home just before 9 o'clock. My wife inquired about my feelings. I described it as odd, like to being in a familiar setting with shifted furniture. If I thought the transformation would last, she questioned. I told her that Jake was mistaken and that I didn't know, but I wasn't scared to go again if it didn't. I didn't lose my temper. They finally listened to the truth that I had finally told them. Something changed forever after that evening. The previous equilibrium in which I gave and they asked was no longer in place. I didn't feel like I was being accepted for my utility for the first time in years, but they hadn't instantly become saints. We began having brief visits and dinners together on occasion. They made no requests for favors. Nobody brought up money. My mother texted us to inquire about our well-being. In fact, my sister sent my kid a birthday card. In order to assist me with installing a new water heater, my dad even stopped by. Arrived with all of the tools, not only guidance. Conversely, Jake became quite quiet. Despite this, he continued to appear on social media with inspirational sayings and hazy pictures from the gym, acting as though nothing had happened. However, Lisa's cousin informed me that they were having difficulties. He had not returned the money he had borrowed from her side of the family. He reportedly blamed poor energy for his failure to fulfill deadlines, which cost him the freelancing job. Jake, classic. I had no interest. He wasn't missed by me. It was telling that the family didn't either. August was the next serious test. My sister was organizing a cookout for the family. The cabin was her preferred location. When she mentioned that the cabin had not been touched since the mess from the baby shower, I stopped. She chose her words carefully. Only say it if you're comfortable with it. asked if I would want to accompany her down and work things out. I promised to give it some thought. At first, my wife didn't like the concept. I wasn't going for them, but I thought it was a trap. I was pursuing myself. Everything was symbolized by the cottage. I allowed myself to become accustomed. I needed a fresh perspective. So the next weekend, we drove up. Only my sister and I. No children. Not a sound. It was a complete disaster. Snow-related deck work. It was necessary to cleanse the pipes. The backyard was overgrown. She did, however, assist for the first time. Really beneficial. We cleaned, fixed, and patched. She rarely discussed the past, although she did inquire in a low voice while we rested on the stairs. Will you ever be able to forgive us? It wasn't about forgiveness, I informed her. I had no hate in my heart. I just stopped giving away free access. I told you to come via the front door if I allowed you to re-enter. Side doors are out. No more snooping around on my schedule. My conscience or my bank account. She gave a nod. Just. 2 weeks later, we had the cookout. Everyone but Jake was present. The cuisine was great. The children rushed around. Without attempting to mend anything, my dad operated the barbecue. My mother questioned me about my job rather than what I could do for other people. It was quiet. My youngster once questioned why Uncle Jake wasn't present. Before I could respond, my father did. Sometimes people need more time to mature, he added. And kids have just stated, but he's already old, in that brutally honest manner. We all chuckled. Even my mother. My sister gave me an envelope that evening. There was a check inside. $3,000. It was her portion of what I had placed in the cabin, she replied. Claimed that while it wasn't all she owed me, it was a beginning. She promised to put things right. Slowly, piece by piece. I trusted her. In a long time for the first time. I didn't feel like I came from a dysfunctional household. I had the impression that I was a part of a reconstruction. However, I wasn't going back to the old manner. New terms would be set by me. It was my mother who suggested Thanksgiving. She spoke as if it were a purpose. To demonstrate that we were complete again, we had a large family lunch. She referred to it as the reset, said it would benefit the children, declared that the chapter should be closed. I didn't disagree, but I also didn't object. I wanted to know. I wanted to know if we were simply playing the same old game again, or if anything had actually changed. Jake was also invited. Even over the phone, my dad informed me. He stated that if everyone behaves normally, he would be willing to attend, because the universe revolves around Jake without ever turning back, and that is his idea of normal. Wearing a button-up shirt with the tag still on it, he arrived 20 minutes late. Purchased a bottle of inexpensive red wine as though it were a significant occasion. Didn't greet my wife or myself. Just in as if he owned the space. Told my mother that because Lisa was on a cleanse, he hadn't eaten all day. Again, no sense. He was not with Lisa. I didn't inquire as to why. Dinner was uncomfortable from the beginning. My mother made an excessive effort. My sister was too silent. My father continued bringing up other topics, at any time. A hush threatened to descend. Jake pretended that nothing had occurred. I questioned my children how my wife was choking them at school, as if he hadn't made fun of me in our last encounter. He then stated, "I think it's time we let bygones be bygones," while raising his glass halfway through the meal. Everybody froze. My sister's gaze was fixed on her dish. My mother smiled weakly. My father stayed put. "You can release whatever you're holding," I said. "I've done so already." Jake gave an eye roll. "Let's get started." And there it was. The actual Jake. The person who couldn't tolerate not being the center. "You adore this entire. Don't you think I'm the one mistake?" "Oh," he said. "Right now you have everyone eating out of your hand." It must feel nice. I didn't even give him a glance. I sliced my turkey, said no. It feels fantastic to no longer have to defend myself. "It wasn't genuine yet." He laughed. "Do you believe that you are superior to us?" My father imposed his will. "Jake, that's sufficient." "No," Jake responded. "Let's not act. You all simply became weary of putting up with me. Kurt eventually developed a backbone and blocked everyone, so he now gets to be the golden kid. Mom got up. The purpose of this supper, Jake, was to unite us. He gave a shrug. We were united by you. You're watching the split right now. Nobody said anything. For a moment, he waited for someone to stand up for him. Nobody did. He then pulled his chair back and walked away. Didn't bid farewell. Not even his coat was removed from the hanger. Simply left. For a time, we all sat there. My daughter wanted to know whether he would return. My mother said, "Not this evening." My dad walked us out after the dishes were finished and the children were asleep in the van. "I apologize," he replied softly. I hoped that this time he would succeed. I gave a headshake. He is unwilling to accept it. All he wants is for it to go his way. My father gave a nod. He will have to learn this lesson the hard way. I suppose I've learned my lesson. He didn't dispute. After everyone had gone to bed, I spent some time sitting in the garage at home. I reflected on the meal, the quiet, and the half-full wine glass that was still on the table. We had never been this close to a reunion, and it was still not one. The fact is that not all stories have to have a happy ending. Some choose to remain. Some individuals just get close enough to push your limits once more. Furthermore, some families don't require repair. All they need to do is be redefined. I had lost my anger. I wasn't resentful. I had just finished. My mother mentioned Thanksgiving photos the next week. My dad texted me to ask when I could go have coffee. After seeing the amazing Lego set on sale, my sister inquired as to whether my youngest preferred the brand. Jake remained out of the picture as life went on, and for once, no one pleaded with me to bring him back. The conclusion was not a happy one. It was simply a sincere one, and it was sufficient enough for me at last. Update. I believed that family drama was over for me. I was only on intermission, it turns out. After the previous Thanksgiving fiasco, everything appeared to be steady. I assumed that everything had finally calmed down. My parents were visiting more frequently, primarily for the children. Still, however, together my sister and I were gradually restoring something authentic, and I had room to think for the first time in years. I was at work till last week when I received a call from an unfamiliar number. I typically don't pay attention to those, but for some reason I did. "Hello, this is Pinebrook Title Services, Claire. I simply wanted to ask a couple brief concerns regarding the cabin transfer documentation." I remained silent for a moment. With some hesitation, she went on. "Your name is now on the original co-ownership agreement, so all we need is your approval to move forward with the complete transfer to Jake McAllister." Yes. Behind my back, Jake is attempting to covertly transfer the cabin into his name. I responded, "I need all the documentation sent to me before I can confirm anything," in a calm voice, and hung up. The email arrived in my inbox 10 minutes later. I scanned it. As it turned out, Jake had filed documents saying I was giving up my portion, submitted a fake signature without even informing me. The man made no attempt to hide it. I returned the call to the title office and gave them the rundown. They instantly stopped the procedure. There are legal red flags everywhere. I kept it a secret from my family, not immediately. Rather, I unexpectedly arrived at my parents' place the next day, sat down with my dad, and gave him a printed copy of the paper Jake turned in. He turned to the first page. His face became white. "Oh no," he simply said. "They were unaware. Now I think so." Mom was appalled. I was sitting there when she phoned my sister. That night, word got out quickly. A block number was used by Jake to call me, left a message on the voicemail. Said that I was exaggerating, that it was only a miscommunication in the papers, that because I wasn't using the place, he thought I wouldn't care and had intended to phone me about it. I left my lawyer a voicemail. An unsettling stillness now hangs over the family group chat like a thundercloud that no one wants to touch, and there is a restraining order pending a fraud case. Here's the worst part, though. After the cabin fallout, an unforeseen event occurred. I began receiving bids on it. It turns out that if we ever sold, a buddy of a friend who had stayed there years prior would always want to purchase it. Made a monetary offer. Good bargain. Much more than I had anticipated. I agreed. Next month, we will close. I'm going to leave that location with more than I started with. More significantly, it has no emotional baggage. My folks were shocked. My mother sobbed. They accepted my dad's statement that he wished things had turned out differently. My sister even expressed her pride in me. Since then, Jake has not been seen. Until he finds another victim to prey on, I doubt he will return. The most amusing aspect, my children no longer even inquire about him. When will Grandpa and Grandma be visiting? They inquire whether Megan is available to watch the kids. In the garage, they discuss building Lego structures with their grandfather. The family has changed, but it is now, at last, what it ought to be. Story 2: The First Tale. I started seeing my coworker, but I keep my polyamory a secret from my 10-year marriage to maintain harmony. In an attempt to create a happy family, I came out to my wife and coworker, but both of these entitled ladies turned me down. My wife left me after 10 years of dating, and my coworker treats me like a jerk. My 4 years of marriage have been enjoyable. Not only have we not murdered each other well, but we have also been really nice and even comfortable with one another. I seldom argue with my wife. I would describe it as a solid marriage, something that most people would be envious of, except from the typical passive-aggressive mood swings that everyone has experienced. And that's the worst part, isn't it? Because it seems like even that is insufficient for me. In all, we have been together for 10 years, and I genuinely love her. She's humorous, kind, and intelligent. She has a strong belief in LGBTQ rights, social justice, and other issues. The type of individual that truly examines legislation before casting a ballot and volunteers for local issues. And I adore that quality in her. Or perhaps I simply enjoy the way it makes me appear. It's difficult to say. This is where things become complex, though. No one is aware that I've been polyamorous my whole life. Not my friends, not my wife. Up until today, not even a random Reddit topic. I haven't told anyone. Being homosexual was viewed as a demonic affliction in my hardline conservative upbringing. It was clear that convincing people that I could love more than one person was not going to work. I buried it. I never took any action. Mostly because I asked myself, how likely is it that you'll actually meet two people who'd be okay with that? Or even someone who would comprehend it? I put that aspect of myself in a mental attic, folded it up like an old blanket, and went on. Normal people only love one person, after all. That's the matter. It's your responsibility to do it. However, things have changed recently. I've evolved. It can be the isolation caused by the epidemic. Perhaps it's the soul-depriving place where we reside. Perhaps it's the incessant onslaught of political and social turmoil on every screen. I'm not sure. Whatever it is, though, it makes me feel something. And through the water's gap. Her name is irrelevant. Let's give her a call. You see, she works with me, and she's perhaps the most amazing person I've encountered in a long time. Extremely sharp. Confident, but soft-spoken. The type of individual who pays attention to what you have to say. This is the energy she carries with her. Similar, like entering a room and turning on a switch that illuminates the entire space. Although she is different from my wife, she is the best in every aspect. The same calm courage, the same compassion, and the same awful ability to keep reminding me that life goes on. Each time she grins. But it also feels different. I get excited around her. My chest feels like it has a pulse. After I flatlined for months, it was as if someone had slammed a defibrillator into my rib cage. It's gotten more and more apparent the more we speak. Something is going on between us. She is too courteous to say things directly. But the way her touch hovers a little longer than necessary, the look she gives me, the slight change in tone of her voice when we're alone. This isn't a fantasy. Something is there, something tangible. And because I love my wife, I'm stuck now. I genuinely do. However, I adore C2. Before it really happened, I didn't believe that was feasible. However, I am 35 years old, married, and totally smitten with someone I shouldn't be attracted to. Naturally, I followed common sense and began making plans for how to deal with this in the most emotionally responsible manner imaginable, or what I believe to be in charge. First stage of treatment. I want to prepare myself with the appropriate terminology before I unleash this emotional bomb on my life, not because I believe I'm mistaken, mind you. Step 2. Carefully and discreetly talk to see without being obtrusive or strange, only enough to get things started. Verify whether she shares my feelings, and I'll be honest, if she does, inform her that I'm ill. Inform her that I am married. Arrange everything like a smorgasbord. And pray that she doesn't simply turn away in terror. Perhaps she's amenable to it. She is forward-thinking. She understands subtleties. Step 3. After treatment, when gauging shows interest, I come honest to my wife. That way, rather than just saying, hey, I love someone else too, I have something tangible to offer. Unexpected. I'll tell her that I've always been poly, but that doesn't alter my feelings for her or the fact that I've never cheated. That I'm attempting to approach this honestly, since I truly am. But if I'm being honest, the reality is, I'm not doing any of this because I have to, but I suppose that's what Reddit is for. I want both of them, which is why I'm doing it. I don't want to hear about the calories, and that's the true reason I want my cake and another one. People will accuse me of being self-centered, of playing with fire, and of ruining a perfectly fine marriage because of an infatuation. It's more than simply a crush, though. It's affection. Genuine, authentic affection. Furthermore, who in heck made it a terrible thing? This is not what I asked for. I didn't search for it. It simply occurred. Everyone says something about love, isn't that right? That it comes as a surprise to you. Perhaps I'm the jerk in this situation. Perhaps I'm simply a coward who uses romantic rhetoric to cover up his midlife crisis. But perhaps this is the first time in my life that I'm being open about what I want. Remarks. Wow, you're just an entitled wimp trying to get away with it. You're not poly. You're planning to emotionally cheat with a younger coworker who most likely views you as a cordial mentor at most, even if you adore your wife. Before telling your wife the truth, you want to see how things work with her. It's not poly. That is deliberate treachery. Honesty, not side quests, is the foundation of polyamory. You're not conflicted. All you're doing is lining up an escape hatch in case it crashes and creating a fantasy. Your emotional affair should not be a surprise to your wife. You're not having trouble finding love. Being a self-centered jerk who desires a second relationship without any repercussions is something you're struggling with. I have equal affection for both of them. Is a joke. After 10 years of marriage, you feel alive all of a sudden and realize that this office girl is your soulmate. You've already crossed emotional boundaries, and it's disgusting that you're putting this coworker before your wife by attempting to lock her down before even telling her. Cheaters work like this. Before the truth is revealed, get the next girl ready. You ought to feel embarrassed. Third comment. Emotional manipulation is evident throughout this entire situation. You are presenting this as a self-discovery, but in reality, you are merely laying the groundwork for your divorce while feigning a profound and spiritual relationship. Poly is not a justification for emotionally catching someone else behind their back and surprising your partner. It is based on transparency and consent, both of which you are woefully lacking. Your excuses don't help the situation. What you're doing is a slow-motion emotional affair. I'm in love with my coworker if my husband brought this home. I still love you, so it's all right. No sense. I immediately dump his ass. You are not a polyamorous person. You're a self-centered man trying to maintain your current relationship while seeking approval from a new person. Just in case. Update. Okay, so I'm updating because it seems that being honest and growing emotionally are crimes that carry consequences. I made an effort to act morally. I followed your advice. Not most of it, as the majority of you merely desired to set me on fire. And I proceeded with my strategy. A plan that incidentally was born out of self-awareness, love, and a desire to stop lying to people. I had no intention of playing people or sneaking around. My goal was to finally live in accordance with my identity. However, the world seems to favor simple lies over difficult realities. First, let's talk about my colleagues. You see, I spoke to her in a composed, mature, and respectful manner. I didn't make a dramatic or improper confession. I explained that I've been doing a lot of self-discovery, which is true, that I've been identifying as poly for a long time. Also true, and that I had developed feelings for her. Not, hey, leave your life and be my mistress feelings. Genuine, respectful admiration and emotional connection. I told her there was no pressure and I just wanted to be honest because I value authenticity. And what do I get? A professional boundary speech. A thank you, but no. And next thing I know, she's requesting to move departments like what? The actual hell. I was vulnerable. I opened up. I made space for her to speak her truth. But I guess people aren't ready for that kind of realness. It's fine, though. Really, I didn't expect her to reciprocate. Not entirely. I just wanted to see where things stood. That's when I knew I had to talk to my wife. I prepared. I made notes. I went over it with my therapist. I thought maybe since she's always been open-minded and always been a champion for LGBTQ+ and alternative lifestyles, that she'd at least hear me out, not jump into a triad overnight. Just understand. So I told her. I laid it all out in the most emotionally respectful, considered way possible. And she just shut down. Didn't even raise her voice. Just looked at me like I was dirt and asked if I was only coming clean because I got rejected. I mean, well, after everything we've gone through. After 10 years of love, laughter, and teamwork, I believed I'd created enough credit in our relationship to have one hard talk without being treated like I cheated. I didn't cheat. I haven't done anything wrong but feel something for someone else. And I was honest about it. She packed a suitcase that night and headed for her sister's apartment. She hasn't answered my calls. She left a note claiming she wanted space and that I've damaged her trust, such as I literally attempted to do things the responsible way. I could have lied. I could have concealed it. However, I didn't. And now I'm the villain. Nobody wants to listen to this. However, I believe that when you stop doing what makes them comfortable, they just want to punish you. It has nothing to do with right or wrong. It has to do with people's need for love to remain modest, straightforward, and controlled. Love isn't little, though. Love is messy. It's large, disorganized, and occasionally inconvenient. And now I find myself at our apartment by myself. My spouse has left. Everyone is acting like I'm the Antichrist, and my coworker seems aloof, for having the audacity to feel many emotions simultaneously. I still think I made the correct decision. Love, in my opinion, is more than people are prepared to acknowledge. I don't care if I lose everything since I was honest. I'm no longer living a lie, at least. I don't regret who I am. Remarks. First comment. I don't regret who I am. You are acting like a martyred prophet of love after you emotionally cheated on your wife, told a coworker about it, and then revealed that your spouse had been rejected twice. Now you're just a guy who played the misunderstood hero and wanted to be loved by two ladies. You lost your marriage when you risked it for a crush. Reaching this conclusion is narcissistic, not bold. You didn't tell the truth. You were captured by accident. Honesty was not what you want. Under the guise of polyamory, you sought authorization to deceive. Both ladies now said, hell no. You're acting as though society isn't prepared for your degree of affection. Hold on, bro. You weren't being sincere. Before destroying your marriage, you were looking for emotional insurance. Third comment. I can't emphasize this enough. You are not a polyamorous person. You're a boring person who sought to reinvent himself as self-discovery by romanticizing his coworker. Communication, not treachery, is the first step for true polyamorous people. You didn't come clean until you were turned down. You're stunned that your wife left you now. Jesus, it's an unrealistic victim complex. You were not penalized for being truthful. You were disciplined for your selfishness. I was unfairly accused of something by the second narrative women. I demonstrated my innocence. 12 years have passed, and my life is still in ruins. And those women got away with it. I gave it a lot of consideration as to whether or not I should tell others about what was done to me years ago. But I'm still troubled by this encounter. As you could have inferred from the headline, I am a heterosexual male of 38 years of age before we begin discussing subjects pertaining to Sir. I have never cheated on a woman or mistreated her in any other manner in my life. I have never shouted at a woman during an argument struck her or made her do anything against her will. Although this does not imply that I am a flawless person, I can state with absolute confidence that I have never in my life considered attacking a woman. We must now travel back in time. About 12 years, in fact. I got to know a female. I'll give Charlie a call. Charlie was a bit of a friend back in the day. She and I initially met in a club. We both attended at that time, and I added her to my contacts after many months. Nothing occurred with her boyfriend at the time, until she texted me at random one day to ask whether I had anything planned for the evening. No, I didn't. Thus, we decided to meet together for supper. Things were really informal on my end while she was at my house. I didn't move at all. She ended her relationship with her partner and genuinely chose not to pursue things, but I was completely unaware of this when she informed me of her availability. In any case, we went to the club later that day, danced, and enjoyed ourselves. She eventually expressed her want to return home and requested if I would be willing to take her to her front door. Yes, of course. I reasoned that since her house is on the way home anyhow, why not arrive at her place in a gentleman's manner? I was asked if I wanted to come upstairs. This is where I have to be honest. Charlie is a really beautiful woman. Additionally, I did find her to be really pretty. I followed her upstairs. However, I didn't start anything. I'm a shy and a little uncomfortable person. As she walked into her bedroom, I sat down on the couch and greeted her dog. The next thing I hear is, "Hey, even though I'm terrible at these things, would you mind coming over?" She was in lingerie when I walked to the bedroom, staring at me before coming over and removing my shirt. One thing paved the way for another. After we had sex, she started acting strangely the next morning, asking whether I would mind leaving after taking a shower and claiming that this was a one-time occurrence. I concurred and reassured her that she didn't need to make things more awkward than they were. I even inquired about her general well-being. "No, everything is fine. Please remember that this was an isolated incident." I assured her that was okay and nodded. Before leaving, I wished her a good day and had a shower. Everything appeared to be going okay so far. A few days later, I receive a summons to the local police station. As it happens, Charlie reported me for various offenses. According to the allegations, I allegedly gave her ketamine so that I could use her for sex without getting her permission. To be honest, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Charlie really asked me to her house, made the move, and I just did the right thing, even though neither of us used drugs that evening, honoring the limits she has set for herself. The police asked me, "How do you explain these blood test results?" And I can still remember it. Charlie tested positive for ketamine according to a paper he pushed over. Despite my confusion, I informed the officer that I had no idea if she had used the drug the day before, the day after, or any other time. He gave me a disbelieving expression that I will never forget. He went on with his question. 3 months later? Since then, I have been in court and am being questioned by the judge and attorneys once again. Sitting in the rear of the courtroom are some old friends of mine who are looking at me like they've seen the devil. My lawyer and 2 very close friends were the only people who could help me at that time. They just didn't believe the narrative. Apart from that, stories have spread so fast that I've had individuals drive by my apartment and write death threats and other offensive things on my vehicle and walls. Family members abandoned me because I would still be a junkie, even if I wasn't abusing others. They said that, other from alcohol and marijuana, I had never used any other drugs. I won't go into the specifics of the trial, but I was exonerated on a technicality. Authorities heard conflicting accounts from Charlie and the witnesses she called, but the harm had been done. I had previously been falsely accused of something I would never have considered. Word got out, and I had to spend a lot of money just to have a good defense. In that instance, several of my old pals pretended that the justice system's institutionalized sexism was the cause of my acquittal. And they will undoubtedly continue to promote the idea that I am a perp if they discuss me at all today. Since then, my family's circumstances have never been the same, and very few people are aware of that narrative because the first reaction is often in the middle. Leave this place. Quit making things up. And what did you do, Jesus? My argument. No matter how perfectly I have behaved over the past nearly 25 years, it is irrelevant. As a male, there are some accusations you will never be able to refute. Why is it worse I'm not only whining about how few people actually believed me because I'm a male? Additionally, this concerns real victims of instance because guess what? Every day, these ladies who despise red pill types abuse stories like mine. That is absolutely not what I desire. I'm calling for honesty and love, not a gender conflict. More equity for those wrongfully accused of such heinous crimes is something I'd want to see. At least the classic innocent until proven guilty or dubious pro theory. Fortunately, our legal system is sufficiently developed to do that, due to the fact that I was exonerated and not wrongfully convicted. The stigma endures, though. I'm still dealing with the fallout from Charlie's reprehensible attempt to make money off of her unfounded charges. And you know what? I've heard that she was able to frame another man for assault around 2 years later. I'm not familiar with the specifics. According to what I've heard, she made a ton of money doing that. Why am I posting this anyway? Mostly because I remained mute about these events for years. I believed for years that no one would trust you anyhow, and not many did. Despite the fact that I'd done nothing wrong, the majority lost faith in me. After that incident with Charlie, I even started dating and confided in 2 of my partners about the whole event. I was not believed by any of the women. In fact, that caused one to break up. I assure you that I am not resentful or have developed a hatred for women. All I want is to go on with my life and lead it like everyone else. However, I still receive particular stares from specific people in my community, and it is destroying me. Also, Charlie and her coke-loving buddies never truly apologized to me. Eventually, I did learn that Charlie and her group acted in a rather planned manner. They chose to play me that way after they met the day I left Charlie's apartment to go high. They were all set free. Even after I made the decision to file charges for false accusations myself. How that occurred is still beyond me. However, I recall them giggling in the courthouse and Charlie giving me that one smile that was intended to convey to me that I was a man. In any case, no one will believe you. My hands begin to shake once again as I type this. All of it feels so awful you won't believe it. At the time, my business failed as well. I had to rebuild my life from the ground up after losing a lot of clients. The public exposure the case has received has forced me to reconstruct my whole life, and I have never been able to fully recover from that blow, given how long ago this was not even today. So, yes, you may do whatever you want with that narrative. I only want to spread some knowledge in the hopes that as many people as possible would realize that males are structurally disadvantaged in several aspects of life, and to exacerbate things more. There are a lot of actual assault victims. I also want people to not believe them, which is the final goal. All I want is for society to shift so that everyone treats one another with the same decency that we want to receive. Asking for or not being able to, in any case, can't be that hard. Please feel free to comment and share your opinions. Apart from that, I hope everyone is doing well here. Remarks. First comment. I'm so sorry. I hope you overcome this and totally recover on a social and personal level. I believe that I would think about relocating. I hope the best for you. Words versus words is the issue in many situations like this one. Frequently, neither side can be proven correct. It is devastating when criminals escape punishment, and it is much more devastating when innocent people are falsely implicated. Regarding what to do about it, I have no response. I'm hoping for the best for every victim. I appreciate your thoughts, OP, for the simple reason that I refuse to allow this one lady take away my house. I will not relocate. The term proof is crucial when it comes to demonstrating correctness. Then without a reasonable doubt. You see, it's really simple to create accusations of any kind. I could also circulate false information about Charlie to get back at him if I wanted to. Of course, I'm not going to do it, but anyone could do it. Until proven guilty, she is innocent. That's the way to approach these issues. Second comment. It's a compelling tale. I'm sorry you experienced it. When my kid leaves for college, I'm going to speak to him. No sex or hookups when intoxicated or high. Join a relationship if he wants to have sex. Ensure that others are aware that you are seeing this woman. Take your time entering the bedroom. Take a week or so to get to know one another and determine whether this is sincere. I must admit that being in a relationship is just better even if I had hookups during my first 2 years in college. I can recall a time when I had to have a real encounter with a woman. If my memory serves me well, she gave me a hand job after I played with her breasts. No sexual relations. When this woman sobered up the next day, I was still a virgin. It was forced, she informed pals. It wasn't forced at all. Things got out of hand since we were both intoxicated. Every time I touched her, I asked her permission, so it was all consensual. Fortunately, her friends observed that it was consensual and persuaded her not to do anything. Not other males are as fortunate. Make sure you're covered. We appreciate you viewing the video. We've got more stories in store for you if you're interested in hearing them. Just press the like button, subscribe to our channel, and tell your friends about it. Story 3. She naturally won the home. She does not work as a waitress, I said as my mother handed the keys to my sister. Let her pay the $72,000 after that. I saved it once. That evening, I stopped discussing taxes. On Monday, they received the letter. You were never the owner of anything. You were always the assistant. Without even glancing at me, Mom said. She extended her hand to hold the keys. That lifeless Sunday morning's calm was broken by the metal clink, smiling as though she had earned them. Emma accepted them as if the 6 years I had spent working double shifts in a cafe and putting everything into that property hadn't happened. She naturally won the home. She does not work as a waitress. This time, Mom added louder. She seemed to be looking for a location. She spoke in such a light, informal tone. You would believe she was giving someone a birthday gift. Not my grave in terms of money. I was standing there with my midnight shift apron still tied at the waist and smeared by cold coffee. My hands had a bleach milk and foam odor. My legs hurt. I had a dry mouth. I then calmed it down. Straightforward. Let her pay the $72,000 after that. I saved it once. Emma blinked. Her smile wavered. My father moved in his chair, the newspaper quivering a little. For once, nobody said anything. The extra home key clinked like a bullet hitting tile as I flung it onto the shoe rack and turned to face the door. Last night, I quit discussing taxes. Quietly but clearly, I added, on Monday, they will receive the letter. But nobody said anything. Not Emma, not Mom, and most definitely not Dad, who had been telling me all year how happy he was that at least one of his children was a hustler. As if being a hustler meant simply giving up your life to let the others to coast. I went outside and felt the chill. Compared to the heat inside, it felt great. The problem is that I didn't intend to say that. Then no. I had mentally practiced that statement 100 times previously, but I always swallowed it until she gave those keys to Emma as if it were instinctive. As if it were the way things were meant to be. But something inside of me exploded. Not too loudly. Like the sound of a last receipt quietly. The printing is finished. They were unaware of my depth at the time. How much time I've spent getting ready. However, they pick up knowledge. Monday. I paid for a house I didn't live in for 6 years. It began with a leak in the roof. The heater then failed. The taxes were then past due, each and every time. It was a simple favor, Mom said. And in order to safeguard her credit, I discreetly deleted every time I sent the money, roughly $72,000, over 6 years, excluding groceries and Emma's death. They referred to it as assistance. I referred to it as duty. I work as a waitress, weekends and evenings, holidays. However, I choose compensated freelancing jobs in copywriting, photography, dog sitting, and other fields. No true weekends, no vacations, and no buffer. We're constructing a future, Mom declared, so every additional dime went into that house. Dad remarked that true men look after their families. You're really fortunate not to have any real duties, Emma replied. And I think they're real. But I couldn't tell myself how long they had been plotting to cut me off, so I didn't know. It began to seep through in tiny ways. After guests left, Mom would chat about Emma's house. Once Emma settles in, she can finally start a family here, Dad stated. Family, huh? I mean, I wasn't involved. However, a Facebook post was the turning point. It was an image. As if they had won the lotto, Mom, Emma, and my aunt were standing in front of the house with a sold sign. Caption, Our Girl's Next Chapter. Very pleased with him. His initial move toward self-reliance. I spent 20 minutes staring at it. My Cafe Shifts coffee is getting cold in my palm. The initial phase of independence. When I took over, that house was in foreclosure. Unpaid tax penalties were piling up like stones, and Dad had spent all of his cash on his consultant period. I was not mentioned. Not a name or a tag. Not even a nod to the family's assistance. As if I were the bill-paying ghost. Everything reached a breaking point when Emma sent me a voice message. It's still with me. I get that you felt like you made a significant contribution, but you weren't actually creating anything. All you were doing was keeping things going. It's not the same thing. The vision belongs to me. You only provide assistance. It wasn't because it was hilarious that I laughed when I heard it, since it was truthful. At last they spoke it out. The mule was me, the leg-equipped wallet. 2 weeks later, however, the true bomb dropped. I discovered an old flash drive while organizing my flat. Years ago, Emma had pleaded with me to support her. I had overlooked it. While supper was cooking, I plugged it in completely. There were folders with names on them. Mark, Timo. I pay taxes to my father. I started by looking through voice recordings, manipulated messages, screenshots, and fake conversations in which I accused her of abuse. A manipulated email exchange in which I threatened to demand reimbursement. Photoshop layers of deception arranged like a destructive portfolio. Date, stamped, indexed. For this, she had been fabricating a history of me getting ready for something. I then opened taxes. My stomach flipped at that point. There were PDFs within. 2 of the tax forms I filled out throughout the years had my name falsified as a contribution to funds for a family company that never existed. My national ID was one of them. Connected. I didn't sign them. I didn't see them. Even though Dad's name was there, his signature appeared to have been scanned, copied, and pasted. They would take advantage of me not just financially, but also emotionally, lawfully. I contacted a lawyer the next morning. Every Tuesday, I used to offer double espressos. I forwarded the materials to her. 2 hours later, she gave another call. She called this fraud. Additionally, they are considering criminal exposure if your name appears on any official filing and you did not allow it. Exposure. That term appeals to me. I sent a message to the group chat for my family. I will no longer be responsible for the house expenditures as of Monday. Emma is also the owner of the taxes if she owns it. I wish you luck. I had no response until my father contacted me at 2 a.m, intoxicated, slurring. That guy is ungrateful. You believe that since you played a count, you are superior to us? Do you believe that this money is what you owe us for your early years? It dawned on me then. Do you think so? They all did. That my birth was a debt to them. that all I contributed was only paying off a debt. I thus made the decision to get my. I dug. I reviewed my bank records, past conversations, and emails. I created a chronology and a pattern. Then I discovered something unexpected. Emma's actual employment history. She kept it a secret from everyone. In 2020, she wasn't unemployed. She was working as a freelance crypto consultant for a client who was subsequently accused of money laundering. Her accounts were reported. You can guess whose name she used to create the initial wallet so I could test it. She uploaded a picture that same week with the caption, "New chapter, new keys, same roots. I'm grateful to everyone who had faith in me, had faith in her. I gave her money. I kept her safe. She now behaves as though she inherited the mansion I gave her from God. Silence is what they desire. Instead, they'll get flames." On a Saturday, Emma celebrated her new house. She referred to it as a modest gathering to bless the fresh starts. The family group chat was used to send out the invitation, the identical one where I informed them that I no longer paid the taxes, and they didn't reply. Isn't it funny? I was still wanted there. Yes, I said, but I didn't bring wine. I came with a laptop, a speaker, and the flash drive. They weren't prepared. The residence had the appearance of a real-life Pinterest board. Golden streamers with white balloons. A charcuterie board arranged as if it were more expensive than my rent. Offering Prosecco to guests as if she hadn't committed bank-level treason, my mom was radiant. Dad laughed like a proud father as he stepped close to the grill. Emma dressed as though it were her wedding. I purposely arrived late. People turned, eyes squinted. There was a whisper. I didn't anticipate his arrival. That's right. Emma approached with phony grins. God, oh God, you did come. I was concerned that the tax confusion was still causing you distress. Mix things up. Mix up, she said. You're going to want to sit for this, I added softly as I leaned in to give her an embrace. Then I strolled right by her to the outdoor table where jazz music was playing softly on the Bluetooth speaker. After disconnecting it, I linked it to my phone. People were waiting and observing. Before we ate, I plugged in the flash drive and opened the laptop. I spoke loudly. I wanted to share something with you, a small present for the house. Emma stopped. A paper plate was dropped by Mom. Dad's lips moved. What does $72,000 in royalties get you in this household? I asked. I then pressed play. The audio was silent at first. Just a background hum of clicking. An ancient tape of my voice left a kind message. Hello, I wanted to make sure you received the transfer. I hope it's useful. It's been difficult, I know. Her voice was then manipulated to sound like it was from two separate clips. You are of no use. You only lend a hand when you're at fault. Do not act as though you are important. Some folks let out a gasp. I let it run. Another 10 seconds, then pressed the spacebar. Made up. Spliced, I said. In a folder named Insurance, I discovered dozens of similar emails, screenshots, and fakes. Quiet. A glass clinking against the plate could be heard. I then opened the following file, which was a PDF. This is my national ID on a tax return from the previous year filed under a family LLC. This was not signed by me. I went to my dad on foot and gave him the hard copy. I dropped it on his lap as he refused to accept it. Counterfeiting, deception, federal crimes. I talked to an attorney. On Monday, the probe will begin. The noise began now. Voices murmuring, chairs scrapping. Emma, come on forward. Pale face. This day is being ruined by you. She gave a hiss. No, you did, I said. I turned to the visitors after you formed your new life on my knee. It's relatives, friends, cousins, and individuals who used to laugh at my jokes years ago, before they forget I was there. If you're questioning if this is really essential, you can ask yourself why they didn't tell you that I paid for this residence. Why they concealed both my name and my assistance, substituting a fiction of Emma's independence for me. I then turned to face my mother and asked her who had written the post's caption. She purchased it herself. She remained silent. Not even a shudder. However, another person did. A man in his mid-30s with a smart blazer and sunglasses dangling from his collar walked forward from the edge of the yard. "That's me," he said. Everyone pivoted. "My name is Alex," he said. "Emma's former partner. The one that cheated on her, according to her. I didn't. She lied about everything, even the money for this house, so I left." Emma did respond now. Like a kid caught in a lie, she first became scarlet, then white, and finally began to shake her head. "You have no idea what you're discussing." He cut me off. "I saw the documents. It was me who assisted her in printing them. Until I discovered that she had used her brother's ID to file them, I believed them to be authentic." Another gasp. Someone got to their feet. Something about wanting air was said by Maya. Alex then delivered the last blow. She informed me that she saved the data in case he became obnoxious. She said that one email would destroy him. I looked across at Emma. "Take action." I said, "Forward it. First, let's watch who gets burned." She remained still, simply trembled. My father got up, bloodshot eyes. He gestured at me with a quivering finger. "This is the final time you have disgraced this family." I approached him, quiet, slow, then whispered, "You pay her fantasies and avoid taxes by using my identity. You weren't embarrassed by me. You were exposed by me." I then took out a letter, folded, sealed. "This comes from the finance ministry. My affidavit will be sent to them on Monday. Every family-related claim submitted under my ID will be examined by them. This covers the LLC, the home, and your deductions. That isn't real." I then gave it to my mom. "You said that because I work as a waiter, she deserves the house. All right. For the overdue taxes, let her pay the $72,000. The yard was blown by the wind. A drink was tipped. Nobody picked it up." I turned to the gate and said, "I'm done. I became invisible after giving everything I had. No more." Emma began to cry, but because everyone knew what I now knew, nobody tried to console her. Only what it could need was loved by this family. On the table, I left the speaker running. As I made my way to the car, track number 2 began. Emma was back. In a message labeled, "Use this if he turns," she spoke in a panic. "I vow to God that I will claim he hit me if he ever finds out. I'll be believed. They have faith in me." I didn't turn around. They could clearly hear it. My phone had already begun to buzz by Monday a.m. My affidavit was confirmed to have been received by the ministry. The falsified paperwork had been turned over to an investigator. The fraudulent LLC and the tax abuse. Everything was being torn apart. I didn't have to demonstrate malice. I simply had to present the evidence. Additionally, Emma had graciously saved all of the information in neat files with her name. Emma's welcome home. It wasn't a celebration, it was an autopsy's opening scene, and I had just given everyone in the room the scalpel. The fallout started at lunchtime. Dad had a tirade on Facebook. It is 3 paragraphs long. There is no punctuation. Something to do with treachery. About sons who rebel against their ancestry. He received 3 likes. One from a second cousin who most likely believed he was discussing politics. Emma turned everything off. Instagram, lost. Facebook made a mistake. LinkedIn was silently erased. There was silence in the house. Not a single new caption. No more selfies in front of the door showing gratitude. I made a payment to avoid foreclosure. That quiet. It was everyone's realization that the script had been turned upside down. However, I wasn't finished that evening. I put the audio online. The party one, the voice memo. "I vow to God that I will claim he hit me if he ever finds out. I'll be believed. They have faith in me. Not even remark was necessary on my part." I only uploaded a single line of text to the file. This is what she said about me. For years, I kept quiet. I no longer keep quiet. What about the internet? Within a day, it detonated. There were almost 300,000 places in the post. Frame by frame, they dissected it, stitched it, and created TikToks. On a live feed, one lawyer even checked the audio for validity. I had strangers on my side, complete strangers. People who said, "I live this," sent direct messages. "I appreciate you speaking up." Others provided pro-gratis legal assistance. Reporters contacted them. The next morning, I received a call from a local podcast presenter. "We would want to hear your tale." She said, "Everything." I concurred. That afternoon, we made a recording. I refrained from crying. I didn't become angry. I just talked about how family can use shame and lineage as weapons and what it's like to give everything and be treated like a living ATM, about how I nearly trust them. Because until I was helpful, I had no value. This was how I concluded the episode. I replaced them with peace, and they replaced me with my own money. Within hours of the episode's release, it went viral. That surprised me, but it seems like many were eager to hear it. Except Emma wasn't. "Please read before you destroy me." Completely was the heading of the 3-page email she gave me. It began while I was in pain. I had no idea how to seek for assistance. I didn't intend for things to go this bad. She then asked if I would be prepared to publicly clarify that her voice memo was taken out of context and that she never physically harmed me. I didn't answer. After a day, she sent a voicemail to follow up. "You have no idea what's going on. I might lose my job. They are contemplating bringing charges." I kept it. I didn't respond. Rather, I wrote one last post. A picture of my new flat. Bright windows, spotless walls, a coffee table, and one armchair. Captioned, "This is the appearance of tranquility. There are no missing keys. Only my name appears on my paycheck." The greatest thing, though, 3 days later, it arrived. An official ministry notification. The tax ID of her father had been detected. An official inquiry had begun. The family LLC's claims were all put on hold. 2 years' worth of returns were blocked when they got in touch with his accountant. I didn't even feel like I had won. I was liberated. That evening, he attempted to contact me. Left a message on the voicemail. "You got your message across. Well done. Are you content now?" The identical line my mother had used once before was employed by him. "Are you content now?" As if peace were illegal. As if self-preservation were treachery. That weekend, I blocked his number. I made my website live. Not only a blog, an undertaking. I gave it the name Dauntless, a digital repository for those who left abusive households after experiencing years of financial mistreatment. A location where they may speak their story aloud or anonymously, including voice notes and screenshots. If necessary, with hard disks. It received more than 20,000 entries in a week. I believe the people who were desperate to be believed. A week later, I received an email from a journalist stating that my tale had started a movement. When Emma eventually returned to the internet, did you know what she posted? A picture shows her holding a coffee and wearing sunglasses while standing on a street corner. Captioned, "In their healing narrative, people will always find a way to make you the antagonist." I didn't take a screenshot. Since I was no longer healing, I didn't reply. I was still alive. 3 months have passed since I left. I haven't felt like choking for 3 months after hearing the term family. They are still making an effort. Mom sent me lengthy, meandering letters. I was labeled emotionally unstable by one. The next person claimed to have forgiven me as if I had been the victim. As if she had the right to forgive. Dad posted a video of himself standing in front of the house on Facebook in an attempt to go public. He remarked that legacy was the foundation of this. My son now wants to destroy it. I was tagged by him. I don't care, therefore I didn't respond. I owe him no response. I received a call from an unidentified number 2 weeks ago. My aunt was the one who chuckled in the family chat when my dad shared the video of me giving him free auto repair. Emma needed to sell the house, she explained. She muttered that taxes were too expensive. They were unaware of the extent of your cover. Didn't want to acknowledge it or didn't recognize it. She asked if I would think about discussing it with the family, said that this has progressed sufficiently. It hasn't even begun, I informed her. I've had enough of being modest. While I still have the original manuscript, I've finished allowing others to alter the plot. So I did something that they didn't anticipate. I purchased a little downtown storefront. Above it are bright windows. I hung a pristine metal sign. Bonds are not the same as blood. Below, fix, take back, rebuild. It's not a company. It conveys a message. I no longer fix vehicles. I assist individuals in repairing themselves. Legal recommendations, budgeting, trauma on an emotional level. Kids like me can navigate. I'm an adult. Those who donated till their bones broke were told they weren't thankful they had bones at all. Last week, IMA stopped by. I caught sight of her. She saw the sign but chose not to enter. The storefront window was damaged a few days later. Spray paint in red. Just one word. A traitor. I took a while to clean it. I did not take action for a week. I then uploaded a picture of it along with a fresh caption. Perhaps you were never the nation I believed I was defending if telling the truth makes me a traitor. 2 hours and almost 100,000 likes. People from all across the world DM'd me. According to one Berlin lady, she showed her therapist the audio from Emma's party. A Brazilian man shared a picture of his own home door. A connection engraved into the wood is not the same as blood. Retaliation is no longer the focus. Reclaiming yourself and letting people know you're not insane are the main goals. You were deceived. The lights are finally back on. For my part, I modified my phone number. New address, new phone. Group discussions are over. Those who failed to show up when I was sick with the illness will no longer remind me of my birthday, or just wanted to be seen or couldn't afford the rent. I no longer receive calls from myself. Not because she gave up, since she at last comprehends. Without respect, there can be no entry. I drove past the house the day it was put up for auction, not to boast, but to bid farewell. As a stranger with a realtor approached and pointed at the roof I had paid for, I parked across the street and watched. They didn't grin as I saw. Who prevented that roof from falling was unknown to them. Excellent. That house is no longer mine, and they don't need to know it. Nor are they. I left something in the mailbox before I went by car. No address for return. On the reverse, in Sharpie, is a folded copy of the final ownership transfer. In your tale, I am not the antagonist. The one who departed before it transformed me into one is me. A banner hangs on the rear wall, and I switched the sign to opened the door and sat down after driving to my business. Large and audacious, not supported by family. They may depict me as the enemy all they want, so I sit back in my chair, sip my coffee, and grin. However, my anger has subsided. I am at liberty. And the sweetest kind of tranquility is that. Story 4. You're calling off my trip, I inquired. No one invited you. My father chuckled. I thus called off their entire trip, left them stranded at home and reclaimed every dime. You canceled my vacation Reddit, I questioned incredulously, gazing at my dad who was idly browsing through his phone as if he hadn't just told me anything shocking. In any case, you were never invited. Without looking up, he laughed. Anger made my stomach turn. This was not an impromptu change of schedule. He and my stepmother had been planning this for weeks, and I was the fool who hadn't anticipated it. I had been anticipating this trip for months. For once, I felt like I was part of a family vacation. My dad had grumbled about how costly it would be, so I had even contributed money to help with the expenses. I reduced my personal spending and took on more work. That I could help too. And now, witnessing my dad smirk as if it were all a huge joke while standing in the living room. I had an inside sensation. Hurry up. Too many times previously, I had been shoved aside. I've been treated like an afterthought ever after my dad got married again. My stepsister Olivia was the golden kid, and my stepmother Laura never liked me. She was the center of every family gathering. All choices were made with her in mind, and I was labeled theatrical or selfish if I ever voiced any complaints. However, they had never done anything like this before. My money had been stolen. Give me the impression that I was on the journey. And then, without thinking, cut me off entirely. My father shook his head and laughed once again. Be less theatrical. Simply put, we didn't think you would like it. In addition, Olivia was determined that this vacation would be unique for the three of us. All three of them. I mean, this family didn't even include me, as I was. When it was convenient for them, they had to put up with a little discomfort. However, they were mistaken if they believed they could get away with this. I inhaled deeply while trying to maintain my composure. All right, I responded in a firm voice. Have fun on your journey. My father waved me away as if I were a child having a fit, hardly acknowledging me. He was unaware, however, that I had more influence on their journey than they thought. You see, my name appeared on a few of the bookings since I had made a monetary contribution. The lodging, the rental vehicle, and even a few of the trips. My credit card was linked to each of them. I also determined they wouldn't be going on the vacation since they had already decided I wasn't. My initial action was to cancel the reservation by going to the hotel's website. After that, I phoned the rental vehicle business and told them I was canceling because my card had been fraudulently used. The outings were canceled. Since I had initially purchased the tickets, I even got in touch with the airline and asked for a refund for my share. Though not much, it was sufficient to disrupt their preparations. What's the best part? I made sure to do all of this the evening before their scheduled departure. As soon as they reached the airport, there wouldn't be a hotel, a car, or any activities scheduled for them. There was commotion when I got up the following morning. I had a ton of furious texts and missed calls on my phone. Initially, my dad's signals were unclear. Have you canceled the hotel reservation? According to the automobile rental provider, there is no reservation. Then the messages grew increasingly desperate as reality sank in. What did you do? This isn't amusing. Give me a call immediately. The rage finally came out. Everything was damaged by you. We have nowhere to go and are stranded at the airport. What a self-centered brat you are. This has to be fixed immediately. I put my phone down and simply grinned. I didn't know what to say to him. He arrived at my place a few hours later and began banging on my door frantically. He was flushed and furious when I finally responded. How on earth did you accomplish that? He spit. I just said I canceled everything. I reasoned that since I wasn't involved in the trip, I also didn't have to pay for it. I briefly believed he was about to lose it as his hands clenched into fists. You were not entitled. You're the reason we're locked here. I gave a shrug. It sounds like a private issue. Olivia might be able to make it unique for the three of you at home. I could see him coming to that knowledge. He was now dealing with the fallout from pushing me too far. I refused to be guilt-tripped by his argumentative attempts. I expressed to him my feelings and how he had made me feel like an outcast, how they had stolen my money and abandoned me as if I were unimportant. They were now experiencing the consequences of their actions. Angrily, he strode off. I didn't care, though. I felt in control for the first time in a long time. But there was still more to come. Because what transpired next would elevate the situation to a whole new level, even if I believed that calling off their vacation was the ultimate form of retaliation. And believe me, it exceeded my expectations in every way. The consequences of calling off their vacation were greater than I had anticipated. And to be honest, I quite enjoyed it. My stepsister Olivia, my dad, and my stepmother Laura were all incensed. The greatest thing, though, they didn't have a plan. They had been scheduled to go for 2 weeks, but now they were stranded at home, fuming and bored. I had made sure there was nothing left to mend, but my dad believed he could coerce me into fixing everything. The motel has a full schedule. I had reported my earlier reservation for fraud, so the vehicle rental business wouldn't even accept his reservation, and the flights were now absurdly costly. They were totally screwed, and the result was better than I could have imagined. My dad initially attempted guilt-tripping me. He made phone calls, left voicemails, and even sent messages that varied from brazen manipulation to phony concern. "This family has been severely harmed by you," he wrote. "I hope all is well with you. Olivia feels heartbroken. For us, this was meant to be a unique moment. Oh, you mean that before you shut me off, it was meant to be special for me? Though I didn't respond, I thought. I allowed them to continue to suffer. It was Lori's time next. For the first time in years, she pretended to care about me trying the full motherly thing. She messaged, 'I really thought we were making progress. I was beginning to think of you as a member of our family. However, this was unkind, cruel. It wasn't harsh to cut me off and take my money. It wasn't unkind to act as though I didn't exist. They only seemed to care when things didn't go their way, which is funny.' I let her read. But Olivia was the most hilarious. She made no effort to conceal her entitlement. She berated me in a voice memo saying that I had wrecked the vacation which she had been looking forward to for months. I simply chuckled and removed it. She had been the favorite for years, obtaining all she desired at my expense. Perhaps she had never had to deal with disappointment in her life before. Excellent. My dad wasn't finished yet, though. When he returned to my apartment a few days later, he appeared more desperate than angry. I nearly felt guilty. Nearly. See, I understand. He sighed as though he were the victim and said, "You're mad." "However, don't you feel that you went a bit too far?" I arched an eyebrow. "Oh, you mean the way you claimed I wasn't invited after taking my money?" He winced as if he hadn't anticipated my direct criticism. "That wasn't the case." He made an effort. We didn't anticipate your desire to leave. You didn't inquire at all." I fired back. "You made an assumption, and you gave me the impression that I was involved until I wasn't, rather than telling me up front." Evidently frustrated, he combed his hair. "All right, I made a mistake, but we can correct it. I simply don't know. We might be able to arrange another trip. This time you can participate." The way he spoke sounded so fake, as if he had no choice but to say it. That's when I came to a realization. I had had enough of trying to fit in with this so-called family, merely hoping for shards of love. I finished a game that I would never win. I shook my head and grinned. "Thank you, but no. I believe I'll spend my money on something that will truly help me." He appeared astonished. "I guess you assumed I would give in. I would then accept whatever fictitious olive branch he offered. Not this time, though. Never again. That was the moment our relationship changed. I stopped trying. I stopped caring. And he knew he had lost control over me. They never got their trip back, and I never got an apology. But what do you know? I didn't need one. Because for the first time in my life, I put myself first, and it felt pretty good. Story 5. Hello, this is Sarah. I'm going to read you Brittany's story today, which is called This. The trip to the country club was canceled, they said. I regret my mother's complaint. My sister shared pictures from the party on social media that night. I was alone, but everyone else was there. I remained silent until my mother texted. "To cover the mortgage, send $2,000. I replied with a smile. "All right, let's leave. I'm Brittany, and I work as a software developer. Since I've been working here for roughly 5 years, I can honestly say that I enjoy my job. Writing clear code, resolving issues, and watching everything function flawlessly when you press the run button are all gratifying. I work from home most of the time, which works perfectly for me. Only once or twice a week, when there's a crucial meeting or something that truly requires my presence, do I visit the office. People always tell me I'm not very social, and they're probably right. I prefer chatting with my friends online rather than meeting up in person all the time. It's not that I hate people or anything. I just find it easier to express myself through text messages or video calls. My social battery runs out pretty quickly when I'm around too many people for too long. The remote work thing has been amazing for my finances. I managed to buy my own apartment last year with a mortgage. It's not huge, but it's mine, and I decorated it exactly how I wanted. My setup is perfect. A corner desk by the window, 2 monitors, mechanic, a keyboard, the works. I can code all day and still have energy left for my hobbies. My older sister, Sarah, is the total opposite of me. She's like a walking party wherever she goes. Everyone loves her immediately. She got married 5 years ago to this guy, Tom, and they already have 2 kids, Emma, who's 4, and little Jake, who just turned 2. Sarah works in marketing and somehow manages to handle everything while still being the life of every gathering. Our folks truly adore Sarah. Whenever we have family meals, people can't stop raving about how lovely she is, how she's such a terrific mother, how Tom is ideal for her. Then they stare at me with these dejected looks. Brittany, you're 28 now. Mom often says, don't you think it's time you find someone special? I'm concentrating on my career right now. I typically reply, but what about friends? You seldom go out anymore, Dad chimes in. My pals and I frequently communicate online. They exchange those looks that parents make when they believe their kid is being tough. Mom will sigh and say something like, that's not the same thing, honey. You require genuine ties. Family reunions are the worst. Members of my extended family often approach me with the same inquiries. Linda is often reminding me that I should not put off getting married for too long since time is running out. Last Christmas, Uncle Mike genuinely made an attempt to introduce me to his coworker's kid. Despite my courteous refusal, he persisted. He's a good boy, works in the field of accounting. Very stable job, he remarked. I'm not interested in dating at the moment, but I'm sure he is. My mother is usually the first to defend me, but she does it in the most humiliating way imaginable. Brittany simply has a lot of introversion. She will say this while grinning pityingly. She requires further time. My dad and I would always have the same discussion after these family get-togethers. They'll sit me down and tell me how ashamed they were when I refused to even entertain Uncle Mike's proposal, or when I dominated the party with my phone, rather than mixing. Mom responds, all we want is for you to be happy. I tell them I'm happy. However, you're significantly different from the rest of the family. Makes it difficult for people to comprehend. I no longer dispute it with them. I simply nod and give them space to speak. On the inside, I believe that I should be allowed to live my life as I see fit. Being quiet or wanting to be alone myself doesn't affect anyone. I pay my expenses and put in a lot of labor. When they need financial assistance, I provide it. Isn't that sufficient? Apparently not, though. They constantly make comparisons between myself and Sarah, pointing to her as the ideal representation of how I ought to live. There are moments when I question if they like me for who I am, or if they're simply waiting for me to change completely. While perusing Facebook last month, I came across my mother's post about organizing a birthday celebration at the country club. She shared pictures of the location and expressed her excitement, saying she wanted to celebrate with everyone. My itinerary on that day was quickly cleared. Despite our conflicts, I adore Mom and want to be present for her special moments, and her birthday is significant. While I was working on a particularly challenging debugging session the next day, Sarah gave me a call. Brett, have you seen Mom's post on the celebration? She inquired. Yes, it appears to be going to be pleasant. It's a quite upscale country club. Actually, that's the reason I'm phoning. I suggested that we work together to find her a really lovely present. Something unique. I was considering maybe $2,000 from each of us, you know. It was a lot of money, $2,000. But I had been saving money for Mom's birthday. In addition, I had been supporting my parents throughout the years with a variety of costs. In any case, yes, it sounds nice. I will immediately deposit it to your account. Britt, you're the greatest. Mom will be overjoyed. I used my banking app to send the money right away. I assumed Sarah would locate the ideal present because she had always been superior at choosing presents. I got up early on the morning of the party and took my time getting dressed. I even purchased a brand new gown. It was a plain navy blue one, suitable for a country club, nothing spectacular. In fact, I was anticipating it. Perhaps the 10 a.m. family get-together wouldn't be so weird this time. To make sure everything was still on track, I gave my mother a call. Hello, Mother. I wanted to make sure everything was still in order for today. At what hour should I arrive? On the other end, there was this strange hesitation. It went on longer than it ought to. Oh, sweetheart. When Mom did say it, her voice sounded odd. Unfortunately, the celebration had to be canceled. Cancel. What took place today? I'm feeling pretty ill. Organizing everything, making reservations, phoning caterers, and making all the arrangements yesterday evening made me really anxious. I had to call for an ambulance since my blood pressure had skyrocketed. I need to rest, they remarked. My stomach dropped. Are you all right, Mom? Do you want me to visit? I can arrive in 20 minutes. Don't worry about it, please. You have other plans for today, I'm sure. I'm not alone since your father is here with me. We could instead have a modest family supper when I feel better. Only the immediate family. Do you think I can scrap the rest of my plans? Really? Don't bother yourself, honey. When I'm ready for that family meal, I'll give you a call. All right, Mother. Feeling better. If you need anything at all, let me know. I was very concerned for her when I hung up. Ambulances and high blood pressure are serious topics. But I contacted my friend Jessica to ask if she wanted to go shopping because I had a free day all of a sudden. After visiting a few boutiques, we spent a few hours discussing business and life while sitting at this adorable cafe downtown. In fact, it was rather pleasant. It's just the type of subtle social connection I like. I had intended to cozy up with a book I had been meaning to read that evening. However, I initially made the hasty decision to check social media to see if anyone had posted anything intriguing or if there had been any changes on Mom's health. I don't use Instagram or Facebook very much. Most of the time, I just browse to see what folks are doing. My cousin Amy, with whom I'm linked, publishes about everything she does on social media. I was drawn to several of the pictures Amy had posted. These were photos from what appeared to be a very elegant celebration with pricey food, champagne guests, and elegant attire. However, the fact that I knew a few of the faces stopped me from scrolling. These were my family members. I headed over to Sarah's page to find out what this was about because the photographs were originating from her account, which I wasn't following. My blood froze at what I saw. Numerous pictures were taken at the country club, which was also the location of Mom's birthday celebration. Sarah even wrote notes like, "Celebrating Mom's special day at the country club," and labeled the location. And what a fantastic way to celebrate our beautiful mother's birthday. I went over each and every picture. Mom was laughing and carrying a glass of champagne while sporting a stunning emerald green outfit. Dad was there, arm over Mom's shoulders in his nice suit. Everyone we often see at large family gatherings was present, including aunts, uncles, cousins, family, and friends. The cuisine appeared to be amazing. Everyone was obviously having a great time, and there were flowers all over the place. I was the only one absent from each and every picture. I tried to comprehend what I was seeing as I sat there looking at my phone's screen. The celebration had not been called off by Mom. She had misled me. Without me, they had all gone to celebrate at the country club. And it appears from these pictures that no one even realized I wasn't there. In fact, as I continued to click through more pictures, my hands began to shake. Mom was seen cutting a very large, ornate cake. One more of her opening gifts, which included what appeared to be a pricey piece of jewelry. That was most likely the present Sarah and I had purchased with my $2,000 jointly. I had been purposefully left out of Mom's birthday celebration. They had stolen my money to help pay for a party to which I was not even invited, and they had flat out lied to me about it. Never in my life have I felt so deceived. My initial reaction was to call my parents right away and demand an explanation. I wanted to yell at them and ask them how they could deceive me in that way, how they could take my money and then not let me attend the event that I had contributed to funding. However, something inside of me abruptly stopped working. I became aware that hearing their justifications wasn't what I truly wanted. I simply poured a cup of hot chocolate for myself and went to bed early. Over the following few days, I was struck by the total quiet. I never received a letter or phone call from my parents following the celebration. Mom vowed to spend her birthday in a close-knit family circle, but she didn't even attempt to act as though she had recovered from her alleged sickness. No one from any of them communicated at all. They appeared to be quite content with the way events had transpired. They avoided having to deal with their embarrassed kid, they had their lavish party, and they received my money to help pay for it. They win, I suppose. I made the hard decision that I was no longer interested in any of it and tossed it all out of my mind. I could do the same to them if they chose to act as though I didn't exist. I concentrated on my job, chatted with some pals virtually, and felt a lot more at ease without the burden of family conflict. This was the case for around 2 weeks. Then one evening, as I was working on a particularly challenging piece of code, my mother's text message rang on my phone. "Hello, honey. I hope all is okay with you. For this month's mortgage payment, could you please wire us $2,000? I'm a little shorter than Dad. Regards, I adore you." I felt even more disbelieving after reading the letter 3 times. It was astonishing in its sheer boldness. They had taken my money under false pretenses, lied to me, and denied me access to a significant family gathering. And now, as if nothing had occurred, they dared to ask me for more money. I looked at the screen of my phone, wondering how someone could be so brazen. As I typed my response, my fingers were trembling a little. I refused to serve as a walking ATM for dishonest people. Even when I pushed submit, I wasn't finished. I visited Sarah's Facebook page, took a snapshot of a picture from the country club celebration, showed Mom cutting her birthday cake with everyone around her grinning and having a good time, and gave it to Mom as well. I got myself another cup of hot chocolate, shut off my phone entirely, and went to bed after sending both texts. I had an odd mixture of satisfaction and rage. At last, I had spoken my thoughts without attempting to be tactful or kind. The next morning, I had to get up early for a crucial video call with a customer. I was shocked by what I saw when I switched my phone back on. Mom, Dad, and Sarah had left hundreds of missed calls. There was a full voicemail box. My screen was cluttered with several text messages. I began perusing a few of the books. The same concept ran through all of them. There has been a miscommunication. You're completely mistaken. We must discuss and clarify everything. Kindly give us a call back right away. Even more desperate were the voicemails. In one of them, Mom was weeping and said she didn't know why I was being so mean. Dad seemed irate and insisted that I quit being such a baby and call them back. In an attempt to mediate the situation, Sarah left many messages stating that if I would only hear their side of the story, we could resolve this, rather than answering any of them. I banned all of their numbers after going through my phone. Dad's and Mom's numbers, Sarah's phone number, Tom's number too, just in case I blocked them on all the platforms I could think of, including email, social media, phone calls, and texts. The quiet that ensued was lovely. For the first time in weeks, I went about my daily routine, met with my client, and started working on my assignments. I felt productive and totally focused. The amount of mental energy released when you quit coping with poisonous family turmoil is astounding. However, they didn't give up so quickly. After a few days, I began receiving calls from unfamiliar numbers. I first responded to them as they could have had anything to do with my job. However, I instantly hung up the phone as soon as I heard my parents' voices. It was obvious that they were phoning from other people's phones or maybe from work numbers. This continued for almost a week. I got a call from an unknown number, and as soon as I recognized it, I hung up. I was knocked on my door one afternoon. Mom, Dad, Sarah, and even Sarah's husband, Tom, were all there when I combed through the crowd. They were resolute as they stood in my hallway. "We know you're in there, Brittany." Dad came through the door and called, "Until we speak with you, we won't be leaving." This was something I really didn't want to deal with, but I also didn't want my neighbors to see the scene in the hallway. I then opened the door. "What are you all looking for?" Without stepping aside to let them in, I asked. "We must speak." Mom said, "Let us explain, please, honey." In defiance of my better judgment, I moved aside and opened my apartment to them. In my living room, they all filed in and stood clumsily. "We are so sorry, Brittany." Mom got started right away. "We had no intention of hurting you. All we wanted to do was keep you safe. What exactly am I being protected from?" "You know how the family get-togethers go," I said. Sarah jumped right in. "People constantly ask you intimate questions about your dating life and the reasons behind your continued single status. We assumed you would feel uneasy, so you chose to tell me a lie instead. If you didn't want to come, we didn't want you to feel compelled to." "We know you don't particularly enjoy those large family gatherings," Dad said. As they stood there trying to sell me this absurd tale, I looked at them all. "Really, do you think I'll believe that? Do you really believe I'm that dumb?" All of them began speaking simultaneously, overlapping explanations and apologies. However, I stopped them by raising my hand. "Do you want to know what I believe actually occurred? I believe you felt ashamed of me. I believe you didn't want your strange, antisocial daughter who doesn't fit in with the rest of the family to be seen by your friends and extended family." Both Dad and Mom flushed. Tom gazed at his shoes and appeared uneasy. Sarah started to argue, but she didn't say anything. I went on to say, "The most abhorrent thing is that you used my $2,000 to help pay for a party. You had no intention of inviting me. That puts you thieves above traitors and liars." Mom said weakly, "That's not fair, honey. We didn't have enough money left over for this month's mortgage payment because we spent so much on the party." "Oh, the truth is out now. You need my help once more because you wasted too much money flaunting yourself for your friends." This was the section that truly affected me. Over the years, I'd helped them out financially more times than I could count. Car repairs, medical bills, home improvements, Sarah's wedding costs, emergencies, vacations. I'd probably given them tens of thousands of dollars over the years. And this is how they repaid me. "I'm tired of being your personal ATM. I told them I'm tired of helping people who lie to me and betray me. If you need money for your mortgage, ask all those people who were at the party. Ask the people you're not ashamed to be seen with." They started making excuses again. But I was done listening. "I want all of you to leave my apartment right now. And I don't want to see any of you for a while." Tom actually looked relieved to be leaving. Sarah was crying. Mom and Dad were trying to argue, but I just kept repeating that they needed to leave until they finally did. After they left, I felt this weird mix of satisfaction and exhaustion. I was proud of myself for standing up to them, but I was also emotionally drained from the confrontation. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. Over the next few days, the calls and messages started up again from different numbers. Sometimes they were apologetic, sometimes they were angry. Dad really wrote me a text claiming that because of all this stress, Mom's blood pressure was acting up again and it was my responsibility. That's when I realized they hadn't learned anything. They were still trying to manipulate me, still trying to make me feel guilty for their own bad behavior. Then the extended family started getting involved, and Linda called to tell me I was overreacting and the family should forgive. Family. Uncle Mike sent me Facebook messages about how I needed to be the larger guy. Cousin Amy really showed up to my apartment building one day, but I spotted her from my window and didn't answer the door. The worst part was that they were all behaving like I was the problem. Like I was being unreasonable for being outraged over being lied to and excluded. According to them, I should just forgive and forget, since that's what family does. I deleted all my social media accounts so they couldn't reach me there anymore. When my folks arrived up at my door again, I didn't answer. When Sarah tried to corner me outside the grocery shop, I walked away without saying a word. After 2 weeks of this pestering, I'd had enough. I contacted my friend Jennifer, who works in real estate, and asked her to start looking for a new apartment for me. I needed to get away from all of this. Jennifer was able to find me the ideal place in a month. It was about 20 minutes from my previous residence in a different area of town, but it was still near enough to the workplace for the few occasions when I had to go inside. In light of all that had been going on, I also liked that the building had improved security. I carefully considered my move. I kept it a secret from my relatives. In any case, we weren't talking. I planned everything on a weekday when most folks would be at work and hired expert movers. I made sure to forward my mail to the new location, updated my information with my bank and work, and changed my address with the post office. My closest friends, Jessica Mark from college, and a few reliable coworkers were the only people I shared my new address with. Additionally, I entirely changed my phone number. I needed to start again, and that's precisely what it felt like. A month or so after my move, Mom Brittany sent me a message as I was looking through my inbox. She didn't inform us your new address when she relocated, as we discovered. We are also unable to contact you on your phone. We know you're angry with us, but don't you feel like you're punishing us both badly for the party incident? We want to make things right because we miss you. Kindly get in touch with us. Before answering, I gazed at the email for a few days. A part of me felt the need to establish some limits, while another part of me wanted to disregard it entirely. Of course, I wrote back at last. I wanted space away from all of you, so I relocated. I haven't forgiven you for what you did, and I'm not yet ready to talk. Your acts continue to hurt and deceive me. I'll get in touch with you directly when I'm prepared to speak. Please give me the time I require and respect my decision. I sent it, but it wasn't received for another month. In fact, without all the guilt trips and familial turmoil, my life improved significantly during this period. Everything else took up more of my energy. My supervisor observed that I was performing even better at work. I was given the responsibility of overseeing a significant project that may lead to a promotion, if everything goes smoothly. Additionally, I began dating a person I met via a friend. He works as a graphic designer for a marketing firm and goes by David. He really came up to me first when we met at Jessica's birthday celebration. David immediately put me at ease, even though I'm usually awful in these types of social settings. While I am introverted because I find social settings exhausting, he is silent, much like me, but in a different way. His calmness and thoughtfulness come easily to him. I truly like him, and we've gone on a number of dates together. I'm not under any pressure from him to be more gregarious or extroverted. In fact, he appears to like my personality just the way it is. My birthday was last week. Along with a few others I'd become closer to over the previous several months, I celebrated with my friends Jessica Mark and David. After dining at a classy restaurant, we returned to my flat for wine and cake. I wanted a modest private party with individuals who truly understood, and that was just what I got. Not like me. Mom. Dad and Sarah sent me birthday emails the next day. Happy birthday was used in all of them. You are missed. You are loved by us. The fact that they remembered and took the time to write to me truly moved me. I replied to each of them with a little note of gratitude. Even though it wasn't much, it seemed like a little progress. I'm not sure whether or when I'll be able to forgive them completely for their actions. The thought of the treachery still stings. They stole my money under false pretenses, lied to me, denied me access to something significant, and then had the gall to want more. You don't just move on from that easily. However, I'm also beginning to see how much energy it takes to keep my anger in check. Since my family's dysfunction has been gone for a few months, I've been a lot happy. At work, I've been more productive. In addition to making new acquaintances, I'm also seeing someone who embraces me for who I am. Perhaps we've all benefited from the space. Perhaps they've had time to reflect on what they did and recognize the harm they caused. Or they may still be the same folks who would rather lie to me than face their own shame about having a kid who doesn't match their definition of normal, and they haven't learned anything. I'm not sure yet. I do know, though, that I will not get back into a relationship with them only because they miss me, or because some people believe that family should be forgiven. If we intend to continue dating in the future, it will be on my terms with respect for one another and well-defined boundaries. I'm concentrating on creating the life I desire right now. I work in a job that I enjoy. I have friends that value me and a particular someone who accepts me for who I am. I can live my life without continually justifying my decisions to those who ought to support me, and I have my own apartment that I have furnished just the way I prefer. As a matter of fact, I am not sure when I will be able to forgive them, but I am aware that I am not yet ready, and that is acceptable. I'm now coming to terms with the fact that occasionally prioritizing myself is okay.